Hope you guys are enjoying the new LFG feature. I've been using it a ton, and after accidentally queuing for a solo queue game, I can assure you that I'm never going back to playing outside of a group. And now that everyone has the option of group play at their disposal, I thought it was a good time to be able to talk more in depth about team shot calling and macro strategy, because these are elements that just weren't in solo queue at all, since no one really listens to each other a lot of the time, and you might even have teammates that aren't going to swap anyway, and it very quickly became every man for itself. But in a group, the team that shot calls better is probably going to win. So in this video, I'm going to break down some examples of shot calling, macro team strategy that I'm able to pull off in matchmaking in a few different contexts. One is me playing with randoms up against a pre-made 6-stack in a game that we're able to win, but also I'll break down me playing in a 6-stack and us losing. There's a huge misconception that it is impossible to beat a pre-made team when that couldn't be farther from the truth. You just have to play Overwatch. Play good Overwatch and you can win. Let's get into our first example. I'm playing in a duo and get matched with two other duos, and we're actually at an SR disadvantage against this pre-made 6-stack of GM players. The first step to beating a 6-stack in this situation is to breathe. Don't panic. Don't whine that you're at some big disadvantage and it's all Blizzard's fault. Hop on the mic and start talking to your teammates about what roles you can fulfill, because you have to bring your A game. This isn't the time to start workshopping heroes that you think you would like to try. Be honest with your teammates about the characters you can play and what's going to be working on the map. These things should just be basic and ranked anyway, I know, but you especially have to do it when a 6-stack is against you, right? So we work out that I'm the most flexible. I don't mind playing anything. I just want to win. We have a couple tank players, and we say that we're going to attempt to do the Bastion on the cart strategy, the pirate ship. However, this enemy team is doing an anti-Bastion setup strat, playing quad tank to rush down the cart to kill the Bastion before he even can get set up, which ends up working. However, with a little bit of shot calling, we're able to overcome this and are able to exploit the downside of the enemy playing this way. See, when I see this happening, I know the most important thing is to keep our Zarya alive with her charge. So we're sure to try to be careful to come out of spawn the next time, keep our Zarya alive with charge, and because of that, she's able to get up to a Graviton, and despite this enemy team being full of highly ranked players, they didn't really handle this situation quite well. They kind of stuck around to poke us when they didn't need to, and instead of allowing us some space to come out and then coming in with a coordinated attack, we're able to use our spawn advantage to really bust out of here. Now, on their upcoming retake, I make a call that somewhat gets listened to, but I'll describe what the logic of it is. As the enemy comes back on a retake, you never want your entire team on the cart. This would be in a top 5 matchmaking misconceptions thing. Once they can come contest the cart, you need to have the better ground to be able to shoot them like fish in a barrel, right? You want to create a crossfire to make it expensive for them to come get to the cart, come get any space themselves, and you do that by spreading out wide and being able to have multiple sources of damage to shoot down past them, so that you're all not just having to shoot at the Rhine shield, right? If you're all grouped up together on the cart, you can't get good angles at their backline or to be able to focus key targets. Realistically, I want this Zen to go even further outside, even farther wide to the left, because this enemy death ball is going to come rush the Bastion, because the Bastion is a bigger threat. So what you do is, ideally, you want to have 2 carries that can do a lot of damage on either side, and you kind of put the enemy in a rock and a hard place. Ultimately, the Zarya ends up listening to this call anyway. She has a lot of charge as well and ends up doing that to great success. As they start to funnel in, the Zarya is able to stay alive shooting from the other side, the Bastion's on the cart, and we crossfire down, and the multi-tank just can't even close the distance in time. In fact, they probably had to wait for the cart to get a bit closer, because them coming out into this wide open space made it so that all of our damage could hit them really early, and they have no range damage at all, meaning that we're going to easily win this fight. And this is stuff you definitely can end up doing as long as your team is playing together and actually trying to win, even if the enemy is playing somewhat coordinated themselves. Now, the enemy actually goes for the correct call here. They swap over to a Hanzo and a Junkrat, which is going to give them the burst damage to be able to get angles on the Bastion. The only problem is we have a big ult advantage since we've won the last 2 fights, so they are able to set up a flank around our Bastion and find him in the backline, and they try to grab the cart, But despite the fact that a lot of things can go through Transcendence nowadays, you're not going through 2 support ults. So our Trance and Mercy Valk is able to keep the majority of our team alive. They do deal with the Bastion, but they're not able to beat out our cart brawl at all. Now, to some degree, Junkertown is just a massive attacker advantaged map, but it's interesting to see a team rated so highly engage on the cart so poorly. So here, as we go into third, we're able to set up our carries on 2 different locations again. Our Zarya on the far right, and our Bastion's going to be hiding off to the left. This is going to create a crossfire of doom, making it so that this enemy team cannot afford to come get us on the cart here. They tried to get really cute with a Rhine charge from the left side, but we sniff it out, and despite this being a full team, they just flub the coordination of this engagement. Because once you get that Bastion set up and the Zarya at full charge on the other end, their engagement has to be perfect, because any bit of poking their head out at the wrong time just gets them shredded like they did. Now, you might just say Junkertown's attacker favored. Surely now this 6-stack team of coordinated players is going to be able to ride the cart to victory themselves. However, they don't seem to really know how to play this map properly. Let's look how they handle this Streets attack. Map control matters. They have a Tracer that's trying to run out to stagger us, but we're able to get our healing in place, and instead of running away to be a pest in our backline throughout the ensuing fight, even just being a threat to force us to turn around and keep honest would have been a good play by the Tracer. She dies, and for some reason, this full team decides to then stay on the cart, while we put a little bit of brawling resources to stall it, but more importantly, take the high ground, shoot down on them, fish in a barrel, easy peasy, bad engagement by them, a free win for us. And at this point, with only like 2 minutes left on Blizzard World, and you haven't got it past this choke yet, you kind of have to be sweating. They do take some cart brawl here, and eventually get some ultimates out. I try to be sneaky to go get this res, but the enemy Valk asserts her support dominance over me. And that's really what they had to do. They had to go flush out that high ground control. Why did they keep sending people to cart? I don't know. I don't know why it takes the Mercy to go kill a squishy on the high ground. Don't do this, guys. Never try to push cart if the enemy defense is taking greedy high ground over you. You have to get that out first, otherwise you're not really going to have a chance just trying to brawl on cart forever. Anyway, we look at how much time we have, and we know that we're not going to be able to get to the cart in time unless we have Lucio's speed boost. So we swap to that and get our ults into play. Don't even end up needing the dragon in spawn, and because we were able to trade out some kills earlier in the fight, and then we use Lucio's speed boost to get back to the cart, we had a better retake than they did. They had some members that were in the back, but because the enemy attack didn't prepare for us to come in on that retake, they just fall victim to our ultimates. They have less members in the fight than we do because they didn't speed boost back. And now what's even worse, the oncoming wave of reinforcements is going to be able to be staggered yet again. Our Zarya is going to have charge going into the final fight. It's just not looking good for them, is it? They have to pop Trance just to stabilize on the streets, just a few seconds left, and they played so undisciplined that we get another Zarya Grav combo coming up, and a pretty convincing win, I gotta say. I mean, we had a lot of time on the clock, and they didn't even get second. It looked to me like this was a stack that was still learning how to use team play. That's the thing with Overwatch. Like, it can be way easier to just play solo queue-esque, right? If you get in a group and say, just people do your own thing. Don't try to coordinate, because coordination is actually really hard. Our next example, I'm going to show how a little bit of shot calling goes a long way, even in solo queue. Here, as we're defending on Anubis B, we're doing the typical Sombra counter engage. It still works quite well, even though you can't farm EMP off health packs anymore. Engaging at the choke, use EMP. We see all of their ults, importantly, and we use Blade, which I kind of think we probably didn't need to use, but since we did, I make a call that I don't think is unorthodox at all, but a lot of people don't follow or think is a good idea, and that's to fight early so the enemy doesn't get a chance to get a clean ult combo off. So important. Use Valkyrie aggressively to get the damage amp out to try to get any kills that we can, because of course we have the respawn advantage. If we even just trade 1 for 1 here and they don't full wipe us, we're probably going to end up winning, but it goes even better than that. The enemy has to just force out Grav unoptimally. They use all sorts of different ults and everything just flails and falls apart. The enemy had a ton of ults to use there, but very little time to get to the point, and us going aggressive on an early engage there was a surefire surefire way to disrupt their big ult setup. Now we're going to go on to a game where I'm in a 6-stack playing against a 4, and we actually end up losing this game after a really hard-fought battle back and forth. Here we're cheesing out the GOATS comp to be able to fully run over the enemy front line. It's a real big problem for Orisa in this scenario because you got just so many tanks that freely walk past her. It can either kill her or her team. We just barrel on through, and their entire team being behind the shield here is a big mistake because we have so much healing and frontline fighting that we can kind of just ignorantly walk on through, focus something, and we're gonna at least trade out, right? This is a type of strat that you might never see in solo queue, despite it working quite well. It's a very easy way to attack first on Horizon Lunar Colony. Of course, a lot of pro teams have done it in the past as well. And one really cool thing about this game was how the enemy adapted to the cheese tactics that we were trying to throw at them. The next time we attack, they attempt to set up a bastion on the point, but even more importantly, they start sending a flanker. Granted, it is just a Roadhog, which might seem like an unorthodox flanker, but it ends up working perfectly because it does exactly what I was saying that we were able to exploit on Junkertown, having 2 carry damage at different angles in order to be able to shred this multi-tank brawling setup. Now, granted, we are able to get our Zarya a bit charged. They rush in, we trade out, and that's just gonna be really bad for the defense, so we end up winning there. However, look at this really cool setup that they get for the Bastion here on B, and it takes us a moment to figure out what to even do against this. We thought about going main for a second, but then we realized that we're gonna get shredded by this Bastion, and they actually set him up on the low ground with an Orisa shield that blocks this angle entirely. Look how cool that is. This makes it so that we can't shoot the Bastion from this angle at all. We're gonna have to flank this shield, but by that time, we probably end up losing some members. Very interesting setup. I've actually never seen that before, and a really ingenious way to use a line of sight on the Orisa shield that sets up for the Bastion to be really hard to access. So at this point, we know we can't really get away with trying to just rush them down with a lot of meat. They got way too much meat tenderizer for their DPS in Bastion and that setup, so we want to play for a little bit more of a poke play style. So I switch over to the meta-approved Hanzo pick, and I'm looking to try to pick off the Bastion or maybe a support. And as we play a little bit more passively, the Doomfist gets antsy, nail him in the head, and we're able to rush on in. Now, I actually flubbed this play, unfortunately. I get a little antsy, even though I'm completely uncontested here with a beat on me. Really, I have to be going aggressive to find damage sooner, but because I kind of hesitate, the Doomfist has forever to come back out of spawn, and we haven't killed anybody else yet. And when you're playing in this solo DPS style, your DPS just has to honestly pop off. They have to be playing really well and never have a moment of inactivity like that, and that kind of just ends up losing the fight. So we go to swap our Brigida onto a Junkrat, looking for the same kind of setup. As Hanzo, I'm going to be looking around the perimeter, trying to find a pick, and we get a long-range headshot onto the Zenyatta, which is going to be an opening for us to go in. And the Bastion is set up lower right, and the Dragon's going to be able to zone him out entirely. Took us longer than we probably should have, but this kind of counter-picking is very common in group play when you don't have teammates that are simply going to refuse to swap, right? Like, you have to start putting your thinking cap on to say, like, well, what do we need in this situation? We need the big burst damage of Hanzo because they're playing in this bunker style that we can't just rush down. We eventually make the adjustments there and are successful on our attack. Learning from our cheese, they run us over with a quad tank strat themselves, but hey, I've watched the Gladiators play. Mei Bastion is actually a deadly combo in order to defeat this because the Bastion can play at range where the quad tank just can't really operate. Now, our Mei player does end up swapping, but you can just keep using the Mei in order to try to split off the quad tank, divide and conquer, and get the Bastion to rip them apart. I mean, this high ground position, it just throws a big wrench in their plans. They're not able to get to me, and this quad tank isn't really going to work out. However, with a lot of their ultimates, the enemy actually goes for a really cool play. This Diva Bomb to initiate forces us to duck and run into a spot that kind of huddles us together. It may have just killed us outright, but it sets us up to get caught by the Grav and Whole Hog, which just tears us up before we're really able to focus him down. Guarantees 2 ticks, but we are able to get our support ults out to get the Bastion set up again. Big retake, stabilizing. We have a chance in this game yet again. And honestly, I'm not that familiar playing in a group myself. Like, I definitely advocate for it being the best way to play, and it's what I've tried to do the majority of Season 10, but a lot of the other seasons, I haven't done it for a really long time because it's been so prohibitive and different than how the majority of the player base plays anyway. But I kind of learned, I think, through this game how I feel about Bastion going up against these types of comps. I think it's really important important to get the Bastion in a hidden spot like this to trap them into the engagement. First of all, he is just really good against Doomfist as well, because the Doom just can't do anything against him. So I think surprising them with the Bastion's positioning was probably the best call, but we try to set up just to win for the shield break here, which was probably a mistake because it leads for all of our positioning to be really obvious and then to be set up to just be grabbed anyway. But still in this fight, however, now they're able to zone out my Bastion damage and I really had to find a kill there. Couldn't get past the Reinhardt. Staying in sentry form right there probably would have been better. Hey, you live and learn. Can't really say the Bastion meta is a thing that you typically know how to utilize when you're playing in solo queue. Everyone thinks it's a throw pick, but it's actually really good against those multi-tank brawl comps. However, of course, at one point they did end up swapping the multi-tank, which I needed to then swap immediately. I got a little bit greedy that they weren't going to figure out how to deal with that Bastion, and they did. Going into our final attack, really smart defense here, allocating enough point presence, but also looking for backside pickoffs. A lot of people in ranked think that you're always supposed to just stand on point and wait for the enemy to come to you. Not really. Really huge play that this Roadhog gets off, and because my team is a little bit split in their decision making, our front line's playing as if we're playing the other comp where we just run onto point, but we went onto a 2-2-2 hoping to poke them down, and they actually have a 3 DPS right here, which gives them just a ton of damage and threats, which means we have to play a bit cleaner on the engage, and because we kind of just rush things, we take too much damage and end up getting wrecked. Ideally, we needed either the Pharmacy or me on the Hanzo to win the pick battle, but we had the Hog flushing me out underneath, and although I did mark the Hanzo up top, he got a shot onto me, and ideally then, if we somehow could get the communication right, we could get the Pharmacy over to go take that duel or to punish the flank that's coming on the outside. And meanwhile, then our front line needs to hold the line, not engage and overcommit. But hey, we're not a well-oiled machine. We're just a group of Overwatch players playing in a 6. We're going to make these mistakes just like the 6 stack on Junkertown made quite frequently. They don't always just do the right thing because Overwatch is a hard game. It can be very easy to have one hand not know what the other hand's doing or needs from their teammate, and this is stuff you have to learn over time. With only 2 minutes left on the clock, we kind of hope and pray that they go for the quad tank setup. So we go for a Mei Junkrat defense. Wouldn't you know it, they pick Pharmacy, end up flushing me out. We had planned on setting up for this wall to enable for some easy spam. That was the strategy that we were going for, but the Hanzo was behind the Rhine and I didn't really see him till it was too late, so he's gonna get a free shot on me. Our whole cute little strategy there just got out-stratted, which is why sometimes over-preparation and too much teamwork can be your downfall, because unless you're willing to lose a lot trying for those teamwork plays to work, to know the different permutations of what can happen, they're not going to be as effective if you just focus on what you can do for yourself sometimes. Too much teamwork and not enough focus on just winning your duels can definitely lose Overwatch games. I kind of zoned out and just followed the call, even though there was a Rhine shield there, afar in the sky, but by that point I think like we're just going to get picked apart no matter what. Really good call on the attacking team's part. Crazy game of Horizon, right? You just see like the counter picking back and forth, the different macro team strategies that are trying to clash together. A little bit cheesy that there's so much multi-tank going around, but as you can see, the team that sort of strayed away from the multi-tank crutch ended up winning in the end, so I suppose there's some justice in that. Guys, let me know what you think about this video. Did you enjoy it? Did you find it helpful? Would you like more videos breaking down actual Overwatch so that you could be more prepared for playing with and against groups in the ranked matchmaking system? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day, so you're going to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.